Sup, team. Today, we are going to be reviewing how to round so we can estimate products today and how to multiply with decimals. Okay, so we've practiced this stuff before. So hopefully this is some review. I'm going to try to move nice and smooth through this video. So if you have to watch it again, you can. So let's start here. If I give you the number 296 and I tell you to round it, that's kind of a loaded question because you can round it several different ways. Rounding means to change this number to something that it's close to. Now you can change it based on whatever place you're talking about. So for example, say you have the number 296. Well, here I've got a place value chart. And you can see that the 6 is in the ones place, the 9 is in the tens place, and the 2 is in the hundreds place. And if I were to ask you to round this to the nearest tens place, that means you would want to round it to this place right here. So in order to do that, what we do is we look to the digit to the right, so the ones place, and if that number right there is 4 or lower, if it's a smaller number, 4 or lower, consider that a small number, then we would keep the 9 the same, and then we would rewrite this number as 290. We would just round it to 290 if that was a 4 or lower. If this number is a 5 or above, which it is right here, it's a 6, then what that means to do is we would actually bump this up one. We would just round that up to, in this case it's a 9, so we bump it up to a 10, which would just mean that it would bump this next number up. And we would round this number to a 300. So what we're really looking for here is to look at the number 296 and then say which of it makes more sense to round this to, which of this is closer to it, which sounds better if you were to just kind of say that what it was close to, 300 or 290. Well, it's only 4 away from 300, it's 6 away from 290, so 300 would be a better rounding for it. And that's how we do it. We look at the number to the right of the place we're asking you, in this case, tens. So you look to the number to the right of it, this 6, and that tells you whether to keep the 9 the same and make it 290 or bump it up, in this case, to make it 300. Let's take a look at another example. Here is the number 4,562. Let's say I asked you to round this to the nearest 100. Okay? See if you can write down the answer to what this would be if you rounded this to the nearest 100. Okay, so to round this to the nearest 100, you would look at the hundreds place. You would look at the place to the right of it. So we're going to focus on the tens place here. And this number right here is going to tell us whether we need to bump this up and make the or keep this the same and make it 4,500, or if it's going to bump it up and make it 4,000, and the 5 would just bump up to a 6, 4,600. Which of those is going to be the better estimate here? And we base this on whether this number right here is a 4 or lower or a 5 or above. And it's clearly a 5 or above. So that means we bump this number up. This 5 bumps up to a 6, and the rest of this just becomes zeros. So this will become 4,600. And you can clearly see that this is closer to 4,600 than it is to 4,500. Let's do one more example there. Let's say we have the number 7,955. Let's say I tell you to round to the nearest 10. The nearest 10 would be right here. So that would mean we would look at the ones place, and that would determine if we need to bump this up or keep it the same. And what we would do is this would either become 7,950. It would either stay the same at that, or it would go to 7,960. Those are our only two real options there. Notice how everything before it stays the same, but everything after it would become a 0. And in this case, this 5 right here tells us to bump this 5 up to a 6. So it would be 7,960. Okay, now what do we do with this information? What do we do with our ability to round these numbers? All of it has a pretty big purpose, and most of it is for estimating. Because if we get a problem like this, we want to be able to give a reasonable answer. And estimating helps that a ton. Me, you, your parents, your grandparents, everybody you know probably estimates in their life more than they do any other type of math. So this is super important. We're going to estimate this, and what we're going to do is change these two numbers to numbers that are easy to work with, but we do rounding to help us do that. So for example, if I want to do 6.2 times 4, I might not know what that is, but I can estimate it by taking 6.2, changing it to a number that is easy to use. For example, a whole number. Usually we can change a decimal to a whole number. For example, 6.2, if we round to the nearest whole number, then we take a look at the 10th place, and the 2 just tells us to keep the 6 the same. We would round this to just 6. 6.2 is really close to 6, and 6, the whole number, is much easier to work with. So we could just off to the side here, or even in your head, just do 6 times 4, and know that the answer to this problem is going to be close to 24. It's not going to be the exact answer, but it'll be close to it. Estimating helps us get that in our heads really quick. Here's another one. Try and estimate this one real quickly. It would be great if you could do it in your head, but you can write it down as well. What I would do here is this is 4.73. And this is really close to 5, and I know that because I'm looking at the 10th place, and that 7 tells me to bump this up to a 5. So this we can round to just 5. It's really close to 5. And 2.1 is really close to 2, because this 1 just would tell you to keep that the same. So really this is 5 times 2 as an estimate, and that would be 10. So before I even do this problem, in my head I already know that my answer is going to be close to 10. Which is kind of nice because when we go to do these multiplication problems, it gives us an idea of where we're supposed to be at. So we're going to have some questions about estimating as well. Let's get into multiplying with a decimal. Everything that we did yesterday applies to today. We just multiply the bottom number times everything up top. In this case, 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 6 is 24. But in these problems, we have a decimal. And that decimal gets placed in your answer based on how many places are behind the decimal in your problem. In this case, you have 1 decimal place. We call that a decimal place, the 2, in your problem. So that means you move it over 1 decimal place in your answer. Okay? Some people get confused and think you just bring it straight down. No, 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 no. You move it based on however many decimal places you have in the problem. In this case, 1. So our last example here, we'll look at one which has quite a few decimal places. We have 1, 2, 3 decimal places in this problem. And what we'll do is we'll just multiply like it's regular whole number, put the decimal in at the end. So let's go ahead. And if you want to pause the video, try this one out real quick to see if you're getting it. If not, just rewatch it if you're having questions about it. Here we go. We'll multiply through by the 1. So 1 times 3, 1 times 7, 1 times 4. Notice how I'm putting no decimals in this part. I'm not even worried about it right now. Place my 0. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 7 is 14. And 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Add all this up, still no decimals. This. And I get this number down here. Now remember, we already estimated this and said that our answer was supposed to be close to 10. So what I'm going to do now is place my decimal based on how many decimals I have for the problem. I've got 1, 2, 3 decimal places up here. Those are numbers to the right of the decimal. And I'm going to move my decimal from over here, 1, 2, 3 places in here. And look, I get 9.933. Now the real question I need to ask myself before I'm done with this is that close to the estimate that I got earlier of 10? 9.933 is very close to 10. So I am very confident saying this is my answer, and then I would turn that in. So questions today about rounding, estimating, and multiplying with decimals. If you guys got questions, let me know. I'll see you later.